Good morning and welcome to Retirement Tax Matters, your podcast with Adam Reed and Garrett Crawford, our resident CFP, and you can find us anywhere on Spotify, Apple Music, YouTube, so check us out. Check out our retirementtaxmatters.com. We've got some free resources for you guys, places to submit questions, all kinds of fun stuff. But yeah, we're kicking off another episode. I think we're 6 weeks into this thing, 7-8 weeks into this thing.
Episode 6, and you had a baby in there too. So we did take 1 week off, but I think for a worthy cause.
Yeah, I apologize for throwing that wrench into the game plan, but I agree with you. I think it was worth it. So, well, hey, I think a lot of people may have clicked on this video and seen the biggest mistake or the number one mistake that retirees make. And I wanted to ask you, do you think this is a bold claim? What is the biggest mistake? Kind of bring us into our thought process on what we're thinking is one of the biggest mistakes and why it's the biggest mistake that a lot of retirees make heading into retirement and also in retirement.
Yeah, so, this whole production of a podcast, there is this tension of you want to have very bold headlines so that people click into this. And I was thinking this morning, that's not always my personality to lead off that way, but as I was preparing for this discussion, I thought, this really is the main reason we're doing what we're doing on this Retirement Tax Matters educational website hub of resources for high net worth retirees. And I do feel like this is the number one thing that retirees are leaving on the table that they could fix and do better. And as we're going to hop into it and talk about it in a second, the reason it's missed and not done is because it actually takes work. It's not something that's just an easy decision. And so the unveil, the number one...
drum roll, please.
The number one thing that high net worth retirees are missing, and that is a mistake, is they need to have more integration, more synergy, just a fancy word for the individual pieces need to be working together to be better together rather than separate. But we need more synergy between what's happening on your tax return, what is happening with your investments, and we'll call that your investment plan. And then the third one is your long-term goals. We might call them your long-term estate legacy goals. And so what's happening on your tax return has to be working with how you have your investment structured, and your investments and tax return should be representative of your long-term financial goals. And I see this issue over and over and over again where people treat those things as silos. They are all part of this kind of banner financial plan, and I've seen that through the years that everybody wants a financial plan, but it's a little bit vague of what that is. And I've even recently had somebody I was on the phone with, and they said, we want a model. We want a 30-year model of what our retirement is going to look like. And I think that's actually one part of the retirement plan. It's that long-term legacy piece, like where we are today, what's going to happen in the future. But oftentimes, 30 years is a long time to look at, but what we need to pay attention to is actually what's happening this year on the tax return, and then we need to structure your investments, your portfolio in light of that. So I think we should dive into that a little bit more today, but how do we bring synergy to those three different areas?
Yeah. And maybe give some insight to this as well. My feeling is that a lot of people probably, if they've been working with a financial advisor, have the investment plan, and maybe they've got an attorney where they've done some of the estate planning, the longer term planning, and then maybe they've got a CPA or a tax preparer that's done some of the tax return work for them, but maybe not tax projections, like if we talked about, I think, last episode. And so it's interesting, you said silos. That makes a lot of sense to me, that for years our industry has been, well, this guy does that, this guy does that, this guy does that. And I think the simplicity of our world, people like simple, they like quick, they like having one person that's quarterbacking things. I feel like the industry is changing, but I think it's changing very slowly. And so I think that's been my experience with some of these things.
Yeah, so I think that's, let's kind of take the historical history of a financial advisor. And when I came into this industry, the tax return was something that a lot of financial advisors were they were almost taught that was off the table for us to review. As a financial planner, we are prohibited from giving tax advice, yet as a certified financial planner, I'm actually trained in tax planning. So what is the difference between helping retirees with tax planning versus giving specific tax advice? And I think specific tax advice in light of what we're talking about is somebody, a tax preparer, a CPA, doing a tax return preparation and actually preparing the forms to be filed to the IRS. It's representing clients in court and tax court. And there's a myriad of other issues. But what we're talking about, tax planning, Roth conversions, and how much should I be saving into traditional IRA versus a Roth, there's a litany of tax planning issues. And I think our industry for a long time had a hard time getting over that hump that the financial advisor, in order to give good financial advice, needs to be aware of what's happening on the tax return. And so there's probably a lot of people out there that are listening that have clicked on this. They could be managing their investments themselves, their total financial picture themselves, or they might be more common. They might have a professional, an advisor, helping with the investment piece, maybe the financial plan, maybe a tax preparer, a CPA doing the tax return, and an attorney. But I would, maybe one of my questions for the viewers and listeners out there is, if you have a financial advisor, have they ever asked to review your tax return? If they haven't, that probably means that they haven't adapted to the past, probably 5 to 10 years of evolution in our industry. And you should be seeking that. You should be seeking somebody who is constructing your investment portfolio and telling you where to save money. They should be aware of what's happening on your tax return. And so, Adam, you were here just a couple months ago. In fact, you might have been the one that you were reviewing the tax return, and we figured this out. But
yeah, I came in there and I said, "Hey, Garrett, did you know that so and so has a farm?" And he said, "No, he's been a client here for years. I had no idea he had a farm because we saw it on the tax return, right?"
Yeah, and so as we've been incorporating these tax returns more and more, and we've had clients kind of buy into that process. They always love it once we do, but a tax return doesn't lie. The information that's on the tax return is your best effort to communicate to the IRS what you have, what you need to owe taxes on.
When you say it doesn't lie, it also doesn't forget. I think a lot of our clients are just, they don't need to know anything about my farm because, it's just, this little thing on the side. But all of a sudden, there's some income coming in off of it, and it affects the way that we plan and project out numbers. So it's not only just, it doesn't lie, but it also doesn't forget because there's things that are just kind of out of sight, out of mind.
And so I guess I'm right there. It's not that clients lie to you. It's just, the reason they hire an advisor is because they don't feel comfortable doing it themselves, and they need help. And oftentimes they don't include things just because they don't know to include those things. Right. But yet their CPA's got them going through a big tax planning checklist, and they're including all that. And, as I've reviewed more and more tax returns for our clients, I find out things that I never knew. No. Believe it or not, that's just the way it is. And so my point is having your tax return, maybe said another way, the more I understand as a financial planner what's happening on your tax return, the better my financial advice is. And said another way, how can I give good financial advice to a client if I don't ever look at what's happening on their tax return? And so this whole idea, mistakes that retirees are making, and the number one mistake is if you have somebody helping you, are they reviewing that key document that shows what you're reporting to the IRS, and is it structured in a way that is helpful?
And then I think the next level of that is, then are they integrating that into these other things? Are they making sure that, hey, here's what our tax return says, here's how we're investing to make sure that it makes sense and
Yeah.
distributing, contributing that makes sense alongside that? And then are we doing that to accomplish the long-term goals and the estate planning and legacy goals we've set out? So it is kind of if you're missing one piece, the other two suffer. And I think that's important for people to hear and remember, because I think a lot of people, like we said, have siloed those three things as, well, if this guy's doing a good job and that guy's doing a good job and that guy's doing a good job, then it'll all work out. But
Yeah.
we've seen some train wrecks, and
Yeah.
so it's important to be on the same page.
And so, what we're doing here on this podcast, Retirement Tax Matters, is trying to bring like this idea of advanced tax planning to high net worth retirees. And so, what does that look like? I've had quite a few people in the past where you look at a tax return, maybe they're a client, maybe they're a prospect, somebody that's coming in, they want to engage our services, and they'll come in and they'll say, I didn't pay any taxes last year. 0%. And you know that doesn't happen that often, but oftentimes paying no taxes is like this kind of blue ribbon. Like, look at me, I didn't have to do it. And in the grand scheme of things, paying 0% in taxes probably means you miss some opportunities. Number one, I wished you would have filled up the 10% tax bracket. If you had a traditional IRA, you're probably never going below 10% if you start withdrawing that money. And then if you have an investment account that has capital gains, you can actually harvest capital gains at 0% tax rates. And so paying no taxes is not always a great thing. You should have taken advantage of the tax base you had available to you to pay taxes at a very low rate and not just continue the deferral train. And so I really feel, again, this idea of the number one mistake is the answer to it is you have to do what I'm calling intra-year tax projections for your situation. And so I would say a lot of people out there, that's probably not a part of their like regular annual check-ins on their finances. In fact, they're probably more used to come February time, I've got, I have my money at Charles Schwab, Fidelity. They send me the tax forms. I collect those tax forms. It's February. I take them to my accountant. They read those. They tell me how much taxes I owe. And sometimes it's a surprise. Sometimes I get a bigger refund. And I would say that the current tax landscape is set up right now between the enhanced senior deduction, these net investment income taxes, low marginal tax rates, that you need to, in the fall, in the summer, you need to make an itemization of, how much money is coming out of your 401k or IRA distributions. You need to figure out what your capital gains are in your investment account, dividends, interest, if you've got pensions. I don't know if I said Social Security, but you need to be adding up all of these things before December 31st of this current year. And you need to figure out where you are tax bracket wise. And if you can figure out where you are, you can take what you know about your situation. Maybe you have a multi-million-dollar IRA that you contributed to during your working year, and we can accelerate some of that income into your current year because RMDs are coming like a freight train. And you can get that RMD money out at a lower tax rate because you're thinking ahead. And sometimes the amount of space between your current tax bracket and the top of that current tax bracket might be 20, 30,000. I'd still argue that could be a really good thing. But sometimes we'll find out it's like 100, 150,000 left and they're never going lower. And so why would we not want to look at that every single year and do the very best possible thing using Roth conversions, doing capital gain harvesting, tax loss harvesting, being aware of what is happening with your investments, what is happening on your tax projections for the year. And if you can do that, it's gonna, on a third step, inform what happens on the long-term estate legacy goals as well.
And I think, kind of to summarize everything we've been saying, the biggest mistake is people are taking these three really important documents, which are the tax return, the investment plan, and then kind of the long-term legacy estate plan, and they're keeping them siloed. So they're not bringing them together and helping them work together. In a sense, the way I kind of like to think about it is like if we told three people, hey, we're going to build a log cabin, and you guys go do your own thing and build the log cabin, then we'll get back together here in 6 months. We'll see what happens. And one guy's kind of built some doors, some framing. Another guy's built some framing. So they've kind of duplicated work, and now we've got a roof over here, but there's no foundation. And instead, we're saying, hey, the tax return is going to be our foundation for projections and how we should invest. Investing is kind of the framework. It's building up. It's growing our assets. And then the roof is our legacy and estate plan. It's going to kind of keep us safe, keep us dry for the long term as we build this beautiful log cabin of financial success.
Yeah, and so like I would say, here's an example of how each one informs the next. If we start with your tax return, if you do a projection and you find out you have $100,000 extra dollars in the 24% tax bracket, you know RMDs are coming and you're going to end up in 32%, maybe the 35%, who knows. What if we took that $100,000 of extra space and we did a Roth conversion, we paid 24% federal taxes, and now we have an extra $100,000 at age 65 that's in a Roth IRA. Mm-hmm. So we've done the hard step, which is the tax projection. We've looked at the tax return. We've done it before December 31st, and we've paid $24,000 on that $100,000 Roth conversion out of separate money, different topic, different episode. But now we have $100,000 in a Roth IRA that's going to grow tax-free for the rest of your life. And if you have children and there's money left over, that money would probably be ideally good to go to them. So we've made the tax return observation. We've made the Roth conversion planning decision. Now we move to our investment plan. So if we know that might be the last money that you ever touch, it could go to beneficiaries. That's going to inform the way that we construct like equities versus fixed income. Mm-hmm. Because you're 65, you may have a 25-year timeline, 30-year timeline before that money could go to beneficiaries. So maybe we, instead of that 65-35 equity fixed income split, we can now actually go like 90% stock, 100% equities, because we know that we have a long timeline for that. So that $100,000 is now earning more over the long term, and we're doing that because of a long-term, legacy goal that money would go to kids. And we understand that the Secure Act 2.0 made traditional IRAs harder because there's a 10-year distribution period and beneficiaries have to pay taxes on that. Because it's now in a Roth IRA, if they inherit that, they're going to have an additional 10 years of tax-free growth on that $100,000, which by then, who knows, is that $300,000, $400,000? And that money, they have 10 years to distribute it, but it's all tax-free growth. And so all that to say, if you miss the tax planning projection this year when you're 65 and you didn't know you had that $100,000 of space left, all those other things never happen. Yeah. And so the number one mistake that people are making is that the industry has changed. If you're working with an advisor, they should be helping you make these observations. You don't have to do it alone. If you're a DIY person, you need to be using tax planning software to make those projections. But it's a new day. The industry is evolving. Tools are out there. And the tax planning projection is almost like this non-negotiable piece that you've got to be doing to manage your finances better.
Yeah, well, and it's funny too, because you've kind of made me a believer, because I came from a different shop, and we weren't doing a lot of the tax projections. There was some here and there. If somebody came and said we want to do a Roth conversion, we'd kind of look at it with them, but there was no proactive planning. And so as I've seen more and more what we're able to do with that, man, I get so excited about it too, because I know we mentioned this before. My dad and brother are both CPAs, and I'm calling them with tax questions like, you're asking really good tax questions. What are you guys doing over there? And I said, we're looking at these tax returns, and so it's been a lot of fun, and you've made me a believer of this. These tax projections are the next evolution of what a financial planner, financial advisor can do for you, or if you do it on your own at home, making tax projections the next evolution of how you can be the most effective in planning, not only for the short term next few years, but for your lifetime and for the next generation.
Yeah. So it's bold to say this is the number one issue, but I believe it. It's what I lead off with. It's when new clients come on board here with us. I'm saying, hey, we start with the tax return. I have to know that. If you don't want to give me a tax return, there's another place for you, because I feel like to give good financial advice, it starts with that, and then it informs all these different areas. So hopefully in 20 minutes we convinced you to do a little extra work. And if you do that, I think that's just the first step in this ongoing conversation that we have for high net worth retirees. I think the target here is those between like $2 million and $8 million in net worth, and RMDs are coming, and you got to deal with them.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I love this topic. It's been fun for me to learn more about these things, but I think that's all we got time for today. So make sure to check us out: Spotify, Apple Music, YouTube. Check out the website. I always put the link in the description down below to the link to our free resources, 6-point checklist for things that you need to kind of get buttoned up before retirement. So we're here as a kind of an educational resource for people. So follow along, check us out. Not every topic may be pertinent to you, but our goal is to cover a wide range of topics that we can be kind of the one-stop shop to check out. Hey, I was thinking about Roth conversions or RMDs, or hey, what am I missing before I do go to retirement? We're here for you. So appreciate y'all joining us. Hope you have a great rest of your day. I'm Adam Reed. This is Garrett Crawford. We'll see you later.
All right.